What's up, Dolphins fans? Impromptu video today on the Fins Up Network because on Thursday night we had the Pro Bowl announced. Yes, the very exciting Pro Bowl. Obviously, meaningless game. They've actually turned it into a flag football game for the first time this year. In the last handful of years, probably more than that. It's essentially been a flag football game, anyways. No tackling. You essentially get wrapped up, players kind of just dicking around, really nothing. I tune into the game because it's a football game. Within a matter of a drive or two, I'm over there just scrolling on Twitter looking for something else. So yeah, end of the day, game is super meaningless. But I always kind of like to see, like, when you're judging a player, when you're talking about like Hall of Fame stuff, when you're looking back on careers, it's kind of cool to see like how many All Pros did they get, how many Super Bowls have they won, how many Pro Bowls did they make. So it's kind of cool in that sense. And then at the end of the day, too, we're fans. We like to see our guys get recognized for the performance that they had, especially in a season like the Dolphins have had this year. It's been a while since we've been this relevant at this point in December. So it's good to see some guys recognized. So on Thursday night, we learned who the Pro Bowl selections were. And then you know what every fan base is doing right now as well. Who from our team got snubbed? Stubbed almost said. Snubbed. But I do want to hear from you as well. Let's hear your reactions as to who made it, who got snubbed. Drop those in the comments. And let's start right away with who made it, because right now, as of we're talking, the Dolphins have 3 Pro Bowl selections: Tyreek Hill, Terron Armstead, and Xavien Howard. Now, Tyreek, seven Pro Bowl appearances in 7 seasons. You know what that tells me? That says just sign up wherever the Pro Bowl is going to be played every year. Just get this dude a ticket. He is going to be there. This guy has been as advertised and plus more ever since joining the Dolphins. Essentially led the NFL in receiving yards pretty much the majority of the season. He is second now to Justin Jefferson. But if you look at that, I think Tyreek's like about 100 behind Justin Jefferson. And then the guy in third behind Tyreek Hill is like 200 plus behind. So they are just running away with wide receiver receiving yards at this point in time. But like I said, second in receiving yards right now. And he also had the second most fan votes of every single player in the NFL. I think you know who had number 1. We're going to get to the snubs. Don't worry about it. Terron Armstead, another deserving guy. You could say he maybe made it a little bit on his reputation as well. Solid when healthy. I thought his overall availability, since he's been questionable so much, he missed some time here and there. He missed an entire game. I thought that may hinder his selection, but he made it. I believe it was his 4th Pro Bowl selection. And then the surprise make from the Dolphins, Xavien Howard. Once again, a guy that I think probably made it on his reputation. And we're going to talk about snubs here in a second. The selection of Xavien Howard, I kind of imagine this like if I'm a fan of another team who had a cornerback that was like, in our opinion or their opinion, very deserving. And you see a guy like Xavien Howard made it this year with the groin issues, with missing a game, with 1 interception on the season, allowing nearly 107 passer rating when targeted this season. So he's been okay, but this is not a Pro Bowl worthy season. There are probably some dudes out there that got snubbed in place for Xavien Howard. So that is probably the biggest surprise of all of our guys that made it. And then if you look at the first alternative, so what does this mean? This means guys that will make it if a player ahead of them either goes to the Super Bowl and can't perform in the Pro Bowl or gets injured at some point in time, can't perform. We get it. So you got quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, wide receiver Jalen Waddle, defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, and fullback Alec Ingold. Now I want to talk about some snubs here because those guys make my list. I legit thought all of those guys could and probably should have made it. But outside of those, I've got 2 more guys that I want to add. Connor Williams, Robert Hunt. And maybe not both, but maybe one of them could have at least made it or at least been an alternative. And here's the deal. It's almost one of those deals where like, okay, well, Terron Armstead already made it. He's the starter. You're going to put 2 of 5 linemen in the entire conference from the same team. So that could have held them back. But if you look at Connor Williams and if you look at Robert Hunt this year, reliable, durable, and you could argue that they are having better seasons than the guy who made it, than Terron Armstead. And that's not trying to take anything away from Terron Armstead. I'm just trying to say how good Connor Williams has been at center, his first time playing center, even at the NFL level. And Robert Hunt has been the glue guy at right guard. He could step in and likely be our team's best right tackle, but he's doing so well at right guard. The team really has no incentive to move him right now because of how good he is doing. But let's talk about those quarterbacks that made it over Tua, because I think that's going to make your snub list. I think that's going to get it. Quarterbacks over Tua: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. And to be honest with you, I don't mind the selection of any of these guys. If you looked at the Vegas gambling odds as to who was going to make it, it was these three all ahead of Tua. But here's where it gets kind of tricky, and here's where it gets confusing. The reports all last week and then even earlier this week were Tua Tagovailoa not only leads all quarterbacks and AFC or NFC quarterbacks in fan votes, he led every single player in the entire NFL in fan votes. If you lead the entire NFL in fan votes, but yet you don't make it, what was the point of having the fan vote in the first place? Get rid of the fan vote. There's no choice but just get rid of the fan vote. Whatever the other voting process is clearly takes precedent, clearly holds more weight. So why are you even bothering like tinkering with the fans at this point in time? So you could go on and on about Tua. Look at his numbers here: 3,238 yards, 24 passing touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. He's currently first in the NFL in quarterback rating at 107.8, second in QBR at 71.9, seventh in passing yards per game at 269.8. And here's the Pro Bowl stat of the day for you. Since 2009, so over 10 years ago now, every NFL passing rating leader has made the Pro Bowl until you guessed it this year, when it's us, when it's the Dolphins, when it's Tua. So yeah, like I said, it's a meaningless game. End of the day, he still might make it in if one of these quarterbacks make it to the Super Bowl or end up getting hurt. Let's just hope our guys make it to the Super Bowl. Let's hope it doesn't even matter. And maybe that seems far-fetched at this point in time. But at the end of the day, I think it just kind of sucks more so for Tua after every single thing he's gone through, and then to bounce back in year one in Mike McDaniel's system, to put up the numbers that he's putting up, to overcome the adversity, and then to not get the recognition after leading the fan vote. After getting all of that going for him, to not even get it is just kind of sucks. I want to talk about the wide receivers that made it over Jalen Waddle as well. So you got teammate Tyreek Hill, you got Devontae Adams, and you got Jamar Chase. And like I said about the offensive lineman, maybe it's one of those things where they don't want two of the three guys from the same team. So maybe that's why they put Jamar Chase over a guy like Jalen Waddle. But I want to compare Waddle and Chase's stats, because honestly, at the end of the day, I think the Pro Bowl, and I think you probably agree with me, is a stats popularity contest. So we got to compare the stats. That's what we have. Receiving yards: Waddle is 7th. Jamar Chase is 20th. Waddle already has over 1,000 as this team's wide receiver 2. Jamar Chase is their wide receiver 1. And yes, I know he missed games, but he is 7th in the NFL while his teammate is 2nd. Super impressive. Jamar Chase is 18th in reception. Jalen Waddle is 30th. The difference, though, is 9 catches. That's the only difference there between 18th and 30th in the entire NFL. In touchdowns, Jamar Chase is 5th. Jalen Waddle is 7th. The difference is 1 touchdown. And then you look at yards per catch, the stat that Jalen Waddle is blowing up this year, leads the NFL, 18 yards per catch. Jamar Chase is 46th. And that's not a bad thing. People can have low yards per catch averages and still have good years. I'm not trying to say that. But what I'm saying is Waddle makes up for his lack of receptions, even though his receptions numbers isn't all that bad, with huge plays. So just like Tua, I can understand this one. Jamar Chase is a great player. I'm not trying to take anything away from Jamar Chase at this time, but you could definitely make a case that Jalen Waddle should have earned his first Pro Bowl selection as well. And then we'll wrap up the video as well. I want to put this up there just because it's information that we have. Additional alternates: Bradley Chubb is a 2nd alternate. Javon Holland is a 4th alternate. Tight end Mike Gesicki is a 5th alternate. And these are fine. This is whatever. I don't need to go into too much depth on this. But all I want to say about this is I feel like the voters, because obviously the fan vote doesn't matter. We learned that through Tua. The voters must have just ran out of names in the AFC, like after Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce at tight end. Because if they've been watching Mike Gesicki this year, and this is, once again, not a big dig on Mike Gesicki. I love Gesicki. I think he'd be a great tight end in a certain scheme. It's happened not to be this one right now, because he has 1 catch for 5 yards in the last 4 weeks. but he's the fifth alternative in the Pro Bowl. So, man, just a kind of a big joke. It's something fun to kind of just talk about and everything. And like I said, I want to hear your comments, share your thoughts on the guys that made it, on the snubs. Gives us something to talk about as well. But I'm going to be back as well. I think it's tomorrow, whenever my final preview comes out for that Dolphins Packers game as well. Got a guest lined up for that one to do the final preview and prediction for Week 16 Dolphins Packers. But that's my Pro Bowl video, Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.